So thinking about these two examples and the functions of the state and education from a reconceptualist lens, Veronica Pacini-Cachabao says that it's easy to see that the system is not broken. The system is fully functioning. So in this vein, Pinar argues that focusing on what happens in schools is not how we cultivate change. To do so would to perpetuate a technological modernist view of social change. So he says that altering curricula content or tweaking classroom organization is not effective. It's like trying to fix a malfunctioned machine by only repairing or replacing a few parts. So he questions, what if the problem is the engine itself? And that is a really great example of what reconceptualist theory is. So in our text, it's argued that psychology is a discipline which underpins the ideals of the neoliberal state and reinforces the categorical mechanisms and rationalizations of Western science and capitalism that got us here in the first place. So to simply look for a symptom and treat it as such is to ignore the complexities at play and perpetuate the misogynistic veil of colonialism and patriarchy in education. So we can notice these discourses at play in our work in early childhood spaces, especially with students who have challenging behaviors are concerned. There's an assumed practice which treats immediate behavior with sticker charts or consequences when children act out to solve a problem, but only for a moment. These practices are easy to implement, they're accessible, and educators can easily take them on. However, in some ways they're superficial because they're only skimming the surface of what really are very complicated, multifaceted structural issues. So the conditions which position this child as behavioral in the first place aren't questioned. So when thinking about educational change and the theories that inform our thinking, to ignore the deeply complex neoliberal agendas that create the construction of schools as institutions of the state is to ignore educational experience. One becomes numbed to the feelings of education and to learning. So this week in your virtual collaboratory groups, each member will come prepared with 2 quotes to discuss, one from each of the articles this week, and your task will be to discuss how these 2 quotes overlap and to conceptualize, this is to help you conceptualize what feminist theory does to your thinking and understanding of early childhood education. So really, again, as I've said a lot in this course, is try to stay, away from your personal opinions and really unpack what this quote in the text is trying to say and make connections now across the literature. And these connections with these 2 quotes and across both these articles is to help you begin to prepare with the kind of thinking that you'll be needing to use in your visual analysis paper, your visual response. So your week 6 provocation, you're going to be drawing specifically again from the readings, and you'll be writing 150 to 200 word response to the following questions. How are discourses of quality informed by the Enlightenment period and logical positivism? And you'll find that in your Beyond Quality text a lot. And actually in the Blaze article as well. And then your second question is, how do theories of developmental psychology contribute to the making of quality and gender in early childhood education? So you're going to be taking up these 2 ideas, one of quality and one of gender, and thinking about how developmental psychology discourses contribute to the making of those 2 concepts. So this week you should also really be working on your visual response, which is due on August 12th at 11:55 p.m. I won't be able to accept late assignments on this because I'll need to get my grades in very shortly after you submit them. So the visual response will be a response to a concept or a few concepts that are related, and I'll be posting a list of these concepts on Moodle right now. So you'll be required to choose a particular visual piece, a photo, an art installation, a painting, some artistic work that you've encountered lately or in the past, as a way to create a response to the main ideas and concerns that have been discussed about the specific concept. So I think it might be interesting to visit a local art gallery or go out into your community and see what kind of artistic installations you encounter that might provoke you to think deeper about some of the concepts that we've discussed in this course. So this visual response is meant to interact in relevant ways with the readings so that it can help your interpretation and understanding of this chosen concept. So as you've done in your weekly responses, this response will need to specifically draw on the readings to support your analysis of the visual piece. So this response must have an introduction, 1 or 2 paragraphs max, and a rationale, which will be another 2 to 3 paragraphs. So the image has to be well researched and justified. It should speak to why is it that this piece is important in conversation with your chosen concept. What elements act as a metaphor or help you to look deeper at the concept that you chose. And this should not be written in a self-reflective way. So for example, I don't want you to write, I chose this piece because it looks interesting, or I like this painting because this, but rather you'll need to draw on the literature to make connections and parallels with this visual piece. So you'll need to know the general background about the artist and the ideas and concepts that are behind this artistic piece. What are some of the provocations and the meanings and the concepts that this artist is working with in making this visual piece? And that can be included in your introductory paragraphs. So some of the things that I'm going to be looking for in your visual response are as follows, and this is all also posted in the assignments document on Moodle. So you'll need to have a rationale that clearly presents your perspective and critical understandings of the concept. Again, not from a personal opinion kind of reflective orientation, but rather you need to really articulate a critical understanding of the literature and what this art piece does to your understanding of the literature. It should communicate specific, accurate, and relevant links to the text that address this specific concept. The introduction and rationale demonstrate that you've studied the concepts closely, that you've really dug into the literature to analyze this visual piece. The written rationale clearly and succinctly describes the intentions of the piece and how it serves as a visual response to the concepts being analyzed. For example, the written rationale explains any major symbols and themes in the piece, and it relates to the concepts being analyzed. And this conciseness, I think, will be, I think that your weekly responses will have supported this, because all throughout this course, you've been writing really short, concise, and clear weekly responses. And this same kind of attitude should be carried on into this visual response because it's not long. So try to be very clear and very purposeful in the language and words that you use. The medium selection was clearly appropriate and it creates a response to the concepts. The size and scale of the selection are appropriate to communicate the ideas. The introduction reflects that you've researched about the artist and this artistic piece. APA style is followed. There's a website that I've posted on Moodle called OWL, which is really helpful in this. It gives you a sample paper of APA, which you should just follow to a T because that's an easy way to keep your grade high. The sentences are well organized and the ideas flow and there are no grammatical errors. So yeah, I think that's about it. Please do reach out if you have any questions about the visual response or any of the concepts that we're going to be discussing this week. And yeah, looking forward to reading your responses on the forums this week, everyone. Have a great week.